and Nikki and I went for a really long walk yesterday. We just walked to Hayes Valley, walked around, and then walked home.
Wow.
So
It's a nice long walk.
we'll start it. I was like, oh, we'll just go for a walk, and then we just sort of kept walking. And I was like, oh, we're okay.
Okay.
We're still walking. Cool. Um, so no, it was good. It was longer than expected, but not in a bad way. Okay. So here's what we have going on this morning. Um, we have, I would say two parts that we normally do, right? Our kind of strengthy piece or skill-based piece, the workout part, and then there's an optional bit at the end. So that's assuming we have time and or incentive to do this part. So the third portion that I'm going to talk about today is optional,
Okay.
not required. But I figured for anyone with a little extra time, or they fly through this really fast, then this is an option to add some more input if that feels helpful. So I know that some of us have limited weight choices. So while sometimes if this is loaded, I hesitate to say correctly, at the intensity that you want, right? Or that it can be loaded. It can be harder and you might need rest. For some of us, that's not an option because our weights aren't heavy enough to give us that neurological stimulus. So a little extra work can't hurt, but if it does feel like you get through the first two parts and you're toast, don't do the third part. That's unnecessary. So our first part, all right, we have 8 good mornings, which I'll talk about in a second. Front loading optional. It's kind of self-implied, I think, or self-defined. The weight in this case would, if you want to add weight, is going to be in the front of your body instead of on your shoulders or behind your head. For anyone who's done good mornings before, you typically do it with a broomstick, PVC pipe, a barbell, I don't know, stuff. To keep it on a barbell. I don't assume you have one. So I'm going to assume we have dumbbells, kettlebells, or have a handy giant cookbook. That'll do the trick too. um, it's actually the cookbooks are weirdly applicable to life in general. So a stack of books, bring it on. Let's do this thing. We have our suitcase deadlifts. This is a single-sided deadlift. So a bit like we're going to build off of our single leg deadlift from a standing position, but start from the ground this time. So we'll talk about what it looks like. Your foot can be elevated or not. Followed by 3, so you're going to complete 8 reps of each. 8 reps of each of the good mornings and the suitcase deadlifts 4 times. So simple. Followed by a brief rest period and then 3 sets of 6 to 8 Renegade rows. Again, I'll talk about what those are in a second. 5 per side. I wrote it in a fancy way, Risa, but ipsilateral balance bicep curl. Basically, you're going to carry the weight of the same side of your standing leg. That's all ipsilateral means. Okay. So no need to get all like, whoa, what in the world is that? We're standing on one leg at a time, hence the balance. Okay. Bicep curl. I think we know that one. Yeah, bicep curl and overhead press. But we'll go over that. So that's just a bit of a balance piece. That doesn't have to be super duper heavy, just something you pick up. Followed by 10 goblet squats. Our optional piece at the end is a tabata, meaning 20 seconds of work, 10 seconds of rest. Typically 8 for 8 sets, and that could be of 1 movement, that could be of 2. In this case, I've written 2 down of Superman holds. That'd be for 1 20-second piece, and then hollow holds. So I'll review those at the end if there is time and or interest. Okay. Let's go ahead and roll right into this. Let's start with our normal kind of floor check-in. That's our, cat cows, bird dogs, just kind of either wake up the body or loosen it up from a long day. See,
Sorry.
whenever you're doing this.
I just realized I forgot my Garmin. I'll be right
Go ahead.
back.
Yeah, grab your, no problem. Not a problem. I'll start. for approximately 10. Taking your time here. We're going to extend the opposite arm, opposite leg. Try and imagine a glass of water in the low back here. I'm only extending as far as that my glass of water will not spill. Okay, we're gonna add a little, I would say, additional hip warm up. So I'll show you from the side and the front. Basically, we're just gonna do nice big circles with our hips. So this is 12 o'clock when I'm facing forward. I'm gonna set my hips out to say 1 or 2 o'clock clockwise. Nice big circles. So we're just kind of doing full, it's not like a extension flexion of the cat cow, but more just like big body circles. So going over the shoulders, over the hips. Hopefully it feels nice, nothing aggressive. In the front, very similar. I'm gonna go the opposite just so you see. So instead of going, I'm gonna go counterclockwise, big circles, right? So the idea here is you're just warming up the hips. You can sit back as much as you're comfortable. Let's do 3 to 5 per direction. So clockwise and anti-clockwise, depending on which one you started on. Good. And last little bit of, I would say, planky stuff, right? Or belly facing down, is planking into a down dog. Try to get right here. So ultimately, I'm in my plank shape, like my push-up. And I'm going to just gently send my hips above my head, through my shoulders. Do a down dog, back to my plank shape. Just oscillating back and forth. You can bend the knees here. Let's do a total of 10. Okay, take a knee or kneeling position at any point if you get dizzy. Kind of biasing either a gentle hamstring stretch or that head between the shoulders, more of an upper back spine piece. Good. And make sure you're breathing through this as well. Okay. Final piece. Our 90-90s, right? This is where feet hip-ish width. I drop to one side, so I'm very much on my right leg. Left butt cheek is off the ground for me right now. I can lean back, especially if I'm feeling a little stiff. If you're feeling flexible, you don't need your hands at all. Congratulations. But I don't want anyone collapsing when they translate to the other side. I want that posture to stay nice and tall, especially when you're switching sides. Total 10. On your time, a little gap between your heel and your knee is a good sign. If I do this for 10 reps or so, I find I've scooted an inch or two forward or backwards. That's pretty normal. What kind of lost count? I'm going to assume that was 10 for me, approximately. So let's talk about our good mornings. First and foremost, these can be unweighted. We'll talk about adding weight in a second and what that might look like. This can be a low back stability exercise or a low back biased exercise. So any low back pain, just stop before it hurts. Or if you know you have super tight hamstrings, listen to that too. That's a good sign as well. So we're actually going to do a standing position next. So this essentially, without weight, can be done very simply as a stretch. Put your hands behind your head, right? Kind of like you want to open up the chest. My feet, you can't see them, but they're about, I would say, shoulder hip width. Nice athletic stance. My knees are soft. I set my butt back and behind me, right? I feel a stretch back here. I even feel a little stretch here. This is okay for me. I feel fine about that. And then exhale. So being braced here, a little flex to the belly is not a bad thing. As long as you can breathe through that. Let's do a total of 5. So if you don't feel much, we don't necessarily need to bend forward though. I want the chest to stay up. So you can bend as far forward as you're comfortable. I don't want any collapsing or rounding of the spine, right? I want the chest or back to stay extended. So this might be a good morning. That's fine. This might be a good morning, but I don't want to see any rounded turtle backs today. Hence the hands behind the head. So again, this can be low back bias, and that should be okay. And if it's not, go ahead, just stop a little earlier, just like your deadlift. Stop there, Arisa. Yep, no need to go any lower. So that's option 1, right? Option 2, front loaded. Like it's traditionally done with a PVC pipe on the back of your neck or a broomstick or a barbell. Give you a couple options here. We have, of course, our good old fashioned dumbbell. This is where you can carry the weight. So how we're carrying this, carrying the weight in front, so just holding it to my chest. So my chest open, right? No rounding forward. And then same thing. Now that I have weight on my torso, I might need to stop a little earlier because I have a little more weight to control, right, with my dumbbell. Option 2, all right, kettlebell. Couple ways you can do this. I happen to like carrying the base or the bottom of the bell, the thing you put on the ground, on my sternum. So I'm carrying it so the bell is facing towards me and it's touching my body. I just happen to like this way. You can carry it however you want, but I do the same thing. I push against my sternum. So my handle's pointing out, right, away from me. And of course, I would say, I think more life specific one, are books. I have 2 cookbooks. I know it's not a lot, but it is enough to get the idea. Give a big hug. All right. I think we've all done this actually. And imagine pick something up. You're like, oh, I'm leaning over and standing up. So just giving a gentle squeeze will also do the trick. All right. If you have a weight vest, by all means, wear that for this. That's okay too. So you've probably done a 16.5 bajillion of these by now, Risa, I'm going to guess. So we'll call that your first 8 at least. Okay. Second movement is our suitcase deadlift. Okay. Now, if you have a dumbbell, like Arisa here, or potentially a kettlebell, you can always adjust or put your weight up on something, right? So sometimes your dumbbells don't always have like a flat head that you can put vertically. Oh, perfect. Okay, great. But if it feels like it's still really close to the ground, so even when you're doing this, you're like, that's still really close to the ground for me. Like I can't reach this. Let's go ahead and take our books or 2 or 3 and put it on there, or yoga blocks. All right. I'm gonna use a kettlebell for this because it's convenient. I'm gonna use it outside. but you can stack your weight on something or start from a standing position. So I'm going to start from the bottom and up. Okay. Single leg deadlift, suitcase deadlift, albeit, suitcase deadlift. We have our weight next to our feet. This is my very cute, adorable suitcase. I know it's very tiny. Bear with me. Okay. I am evenly loaded. You can't see my torso just yet. I'm going to do very much like my good morning we just did. Just go back. I can stick my opposite hand away. I'm going to grab my kettlebell. Now I'm going to watch my toes. Okay. If I have my dumbbell, I can do the same thing. I might want to go a little bit higher on this, but I can always grab my dumbbell. I'm a little uneven. That's okay. Or grab my kettlebell. That's what I'm going to use right now. Stick my opposite hand out from the side. My back is relatively flat. My knees are bent, and I'm sticking my hand out for balance. Okay. From here, flip in front again. We're going to stand up. So now that you know what my feet look like, let's get torso. You should see the logo of my shirt at all times. If I need to balance, it's okay. Right, breathing in and down. Don't touch your toes. We're going to do this for a total of 8 per side. Yes, good. Now, if we're doing a single leg version of this, very simple, same idea. Biggest difference is we're going to find that setup position again, but this time we kick one leg back. So this can be this loaded, meaning deadlift leg, opposite arm, or deadlift leg, same arm. Doesn't matter which one. Right, so from the side, we're touching the ground potentially, or like I said, dumbbells, elevate your dumbbell to a reasonable height. So from like a split stance, basically. So even if you're doing 2 feet or 1, we're going to switch hands after 8 reps. Once you've done that, you're going to go back to your good mornings. Okay. So kind of give you a lot of variations on the same theme. Take which one fits your equipment choice best, and then go from there. Okay. If you have a barbell, we're still going to keep it front loaded. So let's stick with the kettlebell or the dumbbell. Changing your weights between the two if you have the privilege and the option. Yeah, there you go, Risa. When you're ready, you can kind of roll through the following 3 rounds, unless you have any remaining questions, which is fine if you do. Yep. Good. It's okay to lean forward, Risa, but I want you to make sure that we're nice and braced, right? So we're just gently flexing the belly. And when we're breathing, we're not just breathing into the belly, we're breathing all the way around. So imagine breathing into your low back as well, right? So big breath through your whole torso. It's like a tiny balloon. We breathe in, and right, as we exhale, we push air out. The diaphragm's pushing air out of your lungs. That's how it works. And then you repeat that process. Should feel like when you brace, you're actually, instead of flexing and pushing down, we're actually lifting up. We're getting taller or longer from moving forward. Yep. If you're not sure how far to go in the good morning, this goes for anybody. Start really conservative. Maybe you're not going as low, not quite as far. Bias your hamstrings, maybe your butt. You can let the low back support you, but not be the main piece. Okay. Lovely. And I was gonna say, yeah, what's up?
Okay. Right. The 8 good mornings and 8 suitcases. Right. Okay.
Correct. Now, if you have, how much is that little guy, the blue guy you're carrying? 10?
This is the biggest thing I have, and it's 8 pounds.
Okay. So an option, don't feel like you can take it. Or if it's too weird, if it's too weird. If you have 2 light dumbbells and you're like, well, I love to do more than 8 pounds, and maybe I want to do, we don't have 10s yet, right?
Oh.
kind of
Yeah.
put in your
Oh,
point.
I can hold 2 5s.
Hold 2 5s.
Okay.
And it's a weird grip, which is actually not a bad thing. We're kind of playing with. Just don't crush your toes. So go as low as you feel like you can. So I'm going opposite here. You can touch the ground. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. With your little cross hatch. Obviously, if grip will permit. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
It's an interesting way to improve your grip dexterity. And also a way that you can add load as well, but I understand. I mean, actually, this is where kind of like if you take a tote bag, put some books in it, and then pinch grip it, that's a great way to go too. So yeah, with the dumbbells, touching the ground is less of an impetus or a necessity, just because the setup isn't always as obvious as, let's say, kettlebell, but giving yourself a physical target to touch, yoga block, stack of books, whatever, can be very helpful.
Okay.
Good.
All right.
So let's at least a second round. If you're doing this on your own, we're doing a total of 4. If you can add weight, again, you might be adding weight at different rates for these movements. The front loaded good morning can be a lot. So then you add a lot of weight there, just enough for, enough to feel it. Suitcase DL, you could absolutely add weight. I know there's some people out there with 53-pound kettlebells. I wouldn't start with 53, unless that's warm up for you. 50 pounds is not a warm up for me. It's definitely working weight for me, but it is doable. Yeah, it's great. Most great, Arisa. So and right now, we're feeling very heavy on the left side of your body. We hope. Whatever legs in front, really. Yep. And feel free to rest as needed as well, right? Not rest doesn't feel necessary. It's fine. If you need a bit of rest, it's okay to take some rest. Risa, how's that feeling on the good mornings feeling on your, I would say mostly back, but general?
Yeah, I'm kind of feeling it. Actually, not in my back, but my muscles next to my back.
That's okay.
Is that hurting in the right place then?
I
Okay.
think, yeah, I mean, so you're hurting in the right place. Yeah, certainly I think when I think of a good morning, it feels a lot bigger than a Romanian deadlift, right? So we do a lot of those, right? It's from a standing position into some gentle hinge. This is actually pretty aggressive hinge. So whether it's keep the chest up a little more. Yeah, there you go. Stop there. That's fine. Yeah. So the difference between that and like rolling the shoulders forward, which is what we don't want to do, it starts to load the spine a little more than I'd like, right? So the spine kind of ends up in a little bit here then versus here. Now, obviously, if you are sensitive to this shape, hips sitting back or picking things up, just be gentle. Go unweighted. Maybe you stick your butt up and then touch a wall behind you, right? It doesn't have to be this extreme. But yeah, if from what you're describing, that discomfort is okay if you're okay with it.
Okay.
All right. Just use some common sense. If whatever we're doing here It's like, heck, really, really hurts. And I don't know why. There's a perk to virtual training, but the downside is I'm only here right now at 6:30 in the morning. And if you're watching that 6:30 at night, I can't help you right now. Right? You reach out, I can give you a hand. But for now, be smart about it. If you're just a gentle flex, as in, make sure you're braced, at the very least, you should be okay. If you're not okay, maybe you skip it or you just reduce the range of motion or remove the weight altogether. Stopping before it hurts. I think for most triathletes, pain tolerance is more of a problem, as in too much of a pain tolerance. Not so much of, that unless you're coming off an injury, then you're probably a little hypersensitive in terms of what you're feeling. But your ability to tolerate pain is more, I tend to see more the problem with my endurance athletes. It's usually the case.
All right.
Beautiful. How'd that feel?
Okay. All right. That's my 3 sets.
Great.
Okay.
So from here, right, we have 4 sets written, but I think 3 is plenty, right? So these are 2 hinge movements, right? Both kind of like sitting hips back. So if 3 sets feels, speaking of, if 3 instead of 4, I have 4 written for programming. If 3 sets feels more appropriate volume-wise, stick with 3, okay? Another way you can think about this is if 8 reps is too many at a time, but you can maybe do 6 or you can do 5. You can do, right? Total volume ends up being, in this case, what, 48, right? But you can spread it over more sets, right? If you don't like that, it's too much volume, you just decrease number of sets or the number of reps per set. So, you can adjust it to match your ability. I think easiest thing is just to reduce the reps. So it's 8 too many, do less than 8. So for part B, or a second part, right, I'll go through the 2 motions we're most familiar with and then finish off with the one we're probably, once you see it, will make a lot of sense, but when written down, ipsilateral balance bicep curl overhead press. We'll make sure we'll just do that one last, so it's freshest. So the first one we're most familiar with, I'm guessing, is a goblet squat. You can stay seated or if you want to. Right, so you carry your weight in front. I'm gonna use a dumbbell right now. Carry my weight in front. You go ahead, do your squats. All right. Your squats are fine. Okay. But that's right. That's our loaded squat. Okay. So that's kind of the last move on the list, but that's what we're doing here. If it helps, you can sit to an object or to a target. Okay. Or towards if it's too low. So to give you can't quite touch something. So that's movement 1. Movement 2. Okay. You can take a break, reset for a second. Is our renegade row. Depending on the shape of your dumbbells, this may or may not work for you. So if you have them square shaped, great. If not, we can still make this work. Okay. So assuming your dumbbells are square and the same size, you're going to do a push-up. Okay. So you're going to start with your dumbbells about, I don't know, shoulder width, or where you do your push-ups from. I'm going to go ahead and so I'm going to demonstrate 1 rep with this setup and then 1 rep with a different setup. So we're going to do a push-up, just breaking the line of the dumbbell. You don't need to touch your chest to the ground unless you want to. Push up. Then I'm going to row. So preload the right arm, shift weight to the right arm, pull left. And then repeat. All right, you get the idea. So 1 rep, push up, row, row. That might be a lot. So let's assume your dumbbells are round, or you can't pick up dumbbell without hopping, without rotating open, which we want to avoid. You can put the dumbbells near you or just outside your push-up width. Have my hands inside my dumbbells. I'll do my push-up still. Let's say you're still in a push-up. Okay. And I'm either going to do a shoulder tap right? Or row. Okay, so if you don't have the shape of the correct dumbbell that allows it to sit flat, you need to put weight on it. You can have your dumbbells outside of your wrists while you do the push-up. And when it comes to the row part, you just pick up the dumbbell before you row. Or bring the hand to your shoulder or opposite shoulder. So 1 rep is a push-up and a shoulder tap or row on both sides. If you need to use your knees for the push-up, that's absolutely fine. Good. And these are terrible, by the way, and that's okay. Hence the 6 to 8 rep range. Good. Go ahead, rest, Teresa, for a second. That's your Renegade row. The last piece, this is the one that we haven't done, but probably going to make a lot more sense. So essentially, we're going to be standing up with one knee raised. So I'm going to show you from the waist up, but essentially I'm going to be standing up. I'm standing on my right leg. I'm lifting up my left. Actually, sorry, a little higher up, excuse me. It's a lot of range of motion here. Again, I'm standing on my right, lifting up my left foot. I'm going to go ahead and bicep. So left leg's lifted. Whoop, sitting up balance. I'm going to do a bicep curl, press overhead, and then that's 1. Bicep curl, press 2, right? Can you stick that foot down? You can. And we're doing a total of 5 per side. This is your ipsilateral, same side loaded. That's what that means. Balance, opposite leg is lifted. So that opposite Arisa. So the knee that's lifted, yes. So the standing leg and bicep curl arm and overhead press arm are the same. All right. So a lot of stuff going on. Movement 1 in the order of operations. I have 3 sets written here. We'll see how that goes. 6 to 8 Renegade rows. If this is your first time doing a Renegade row, you joined in and we've done these in the past, but this is your first time. Let's stick with 3 to 5 because these get spicy and we don't need to go crazy on these. So it's written as 6 to 8 reps. If you've done them before, if you're increasing your weight, let's go back down to 3 to 5 reps per side, or like per, excuse me, 3 to 6 reps, excuse me. Right. So 3 to 5 reps or 6 to 8 reps, not per side, just period. 5 same-sided standing balancing stuff, bicep curl, press. So again, the knee that's raised, or the standing leg is the hand you have the weight in. You do a bicep curl, whether you do go thumb back, palm, doesn't matter. I don't care how you do your bicep curl, this way, or is it more hammer curl style? 5 per side, and then 10 goblet squats. Okay, so movement 1 is the Renegade rows. So we're going to find our dumbbells or dumbbell even, if it's just one, and go ahead and start in that plank position. You can do your push-up. From the knees is fine. If it helps, put a pillow between your dumbbells or your hands to touch, that's fine. And then you're going to either lift your arm up and touch the same or opposite shoulder, or do a row per side. Yep. Yep. There you go. It's going to sound silly, but keep both feet on the ground, harder than it sounds. So I want you doing a row with both arms, Arisa. So right, left, or left, right. There you go. Yes, there it is. And again, 3 to 5 reps. The row and where being a push-up and 2 rows, or push-up and 2 shoulder taps. There you go. So 3 to 5 reps is kind of, I wouldn't say even beginner, but like first time doing this movement or in a long time, or 6 to 8 for anyone in that range where they've done this before. Push-ups are fine. Done steady. Followed by standing up, one weight. So let's start for the sake of this exercise. Right? Yep. So you have your right foot standing, left leg lifted. Yeah, that's a reset. Take your time. And of course, always put your foot down if you're going to fall down. Yeah, you're going to bicep curl. Well, again, palm forward or thumb back. Doesn't only matter on that one. If I do it with the shoulder, when I do this, back, not forward. Yeah, so the elbow should be coming up, not back and over. And then pressing overhead. This could also just be, again, a can of beans, right? 15 ounces. We're just grabbing something. 5 per side. It's okay. Put the foot down if you need to. Stick the opposite hand out. No need to try and save it if you feel like you're falling over. And just in case you're not breathing, Arisa, make sure you're breathing. You'd be surprised at, or anyone doing this. If you're holding your breath, try and just breathe consistently. You will have a side you are better at standing on. So it's okay if you know what that side is. Once I know what that side is for myself, I will start on that side every time so they get the hard part done over with. Yeah, it's great. Good. For anyone struggling with balance in general, just gonna say it out there. If you want to stand next to a wall or a mantle or something that you can grab onto with your non-bicep curl hand side, by all means. There's no need to topple over for the sake of an exercise. Have a safety net there if you need it. Beautiful. Followed by 10 goblet squats. So this is probably the simplest of our 3 movements today. It can also be potentially the heaviest because it is simple. Good. We're doing a total of 3 rounds. A lot of brain body connection happening, so we're not going to go crazy on the volume. Okay. Back to the Renegade rows, at least for Arisa in this case. Doing the push-up. Yep, there we go. I will say too, if it helps, Arisa, you can go into your plank shape, like, full plank shape for the row itself. So do the push-up from your knees. It might feel a little bit harder to do, but I think sometimes keeping the legs straight is easier to do the row from. Yeah. And maybe not. It's okay to stay on your knees for the row, but sometimes I find that could be a bit of I find being on my knees too long actually hurts my kneecaps. So I'd rather be in a full length plank shape. But after your Renegade rows, doing your 5 per side, we'll say same, how do I say this in a regular way? Standing leg is your weighted arm. So right leg, right arm. And a bicep curl. And then overhead press. And then repeat 5%, lifting the opposite leg off the ground. seriously, you keep going with this. I realize we have people with kettlebells. So keep rolling through that. I'm going to demonstrate the bicep curl and overhead press with the kettlebells. I realize the grip might be
Okay.
slightly different. Same principle though. So go ahead and keep rolling through your second round,
Okay.
almost third. But I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate this piece, the one that we just did, the standing one. So the bicep curl one, I realized the grip on the kettlebell is a little bit different. So it's okay for just kind of in the corner of our kettlebell, just like we normally do. Right. And then from here, right? I know I'm not using one leg, but this is about the grip, not anything else. So it could be a curl, curl. So the kettlebell, my palms facing me, my hands open, bells facing away. And to press, I can then just rotate, press, come back to that front rack we talked about, thumb towards the shoulder, the sternum, back, down. So bells down, bell still in front, rotate the thumb back, press. So that can be your kettlebell version. I will say, feel free to try it. You can always, again, grab a smaller object if you need to grab something less awkward. Although I find kettlebells to be okay. Good work. If you need to remove the weight out of the equation on that Renegade row, you just tap your shoulder and just do a shoulder tap. Still a good brain body connection piece. Hand down or have it near a wall. Support if necessary. Yeah. For anyone at home think they're nailing it, go and just check to make sure your standing leg knee is not locked out, meaning you're not flexing, you're not at the end point of your joints, right? So if you are, go ahead and soften the knee. Do that with 2 feet on the ground first. So we're not hyperextended, and we're not bending the knee. We're somewhere in between. Nice squats, Ruth. That's great. Good. Breathing in down, breathing out, stand. And rest. The hiccups all of a sudden, excuse me. Risa, you're doing 4 rounds. You're only supposed to do 3. Unless you want to do a 4. Was that?
Okay. That was 3.
That was 3. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yes. All right.
We're
All
gonna,
right.
yeah. And the reason I kind of inversed, I would say, the number of rounds. So typically I do a little more rounds on the second piece than the first piece. In this case, while the first piece was skill based, it was less, I think, neurologically challenging. Like less up here. Yes,
Okay.
it was you're trying to make sure we don't do anything silly, but it wasn't overly complicated.
Okay.
Part B was a big brain exercise.
Oh,
At least I think it is. So I did
yes.
less in part B or second part, and that's on purpose. We can increase that volume 1 movement at a time eventually. But we'll do 1 movement at a time. Right? We're just introducing some different shapes. So I'm going to describe the optional tabata. Gracie, you do not have to do the optional tabata.
You know what? Let's do it. We're here.
Let's try it.
Yes.
Yeah. So we have 2 shapes here. And we have about 4 minutes, so it's perfect. 20 seconds on, 20 seconds off, 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off. So 30-second intervals, 20 seconds of work, 10 seconds of rest. Why Tabata? Because the guy's name was Tabata. That's why, if you're wondering. At least according to the internet.
Yes.
So, double check your facts. Don't trust me. We have 2 shapes. We have the Superman hold and we have the hollow hold. So, and I'm going to be pretty specific about how I want the hollow holds. I think it's more sport specific unless you're gymnastics based. So if you're gymnast, 2 feet. If you're more cyclist slash runner, triathlete, which most of you are, we're going to do this version instead. So essentially, our Superman hold, first and foremost, is we're belly facing down. I'm going to have a bit of trouble here, so I'm going to go on a bit diagonal on the screen here so I can fully reach. I want your toes together and your thumbs up. Okay. Almost like this. Like that. Pretty simple. My toes together. My thumbs are up. Okay. My butt squeezed. I want to raise my hands up. I can drop my head if I need to, and then kind of raise up my feet, my hands. Right. My butt squeezed. I'm braced. I think it's good. I'm not very high. I'm not here.
Oh, okay.
Okay. We're going to do a hold, or we could just do Superman's. If the hold's too much, maybe we're like kind of relaxing, active, relaxing, active. Okay. So it's less about how big your U or arch is and more about kind of squeeze my butt and extend and reach, almost like swimming. Weird. It's funny how I thought of that. Hollow hold on the back, same thing. So typically a hollow hold, you see people in some, again, I'll kind of go diagonal here. You see people start in a tuck shape. Low back is on the ground, shoulders off the ground, and hips sort of off the ground. Okay, I say sort of, basically they're not flat. I'm tucking my hips. So you'll see people kind of go to here, right? Big shape. First and foremost, that's harder to do. Secondly, in sport, I don't think we're doing a lot of this. We're doing maybe this, cycling, right? Pushing. So in this case, we'll lift up, start in that tuck shape, shoulders to the ground, low back on the ground, knees towards your chest. First and foremost, this is step 1. If you're like, I've got this part, great. Nailed it. Maybe we do this. Okay. Now that, maybe we do this. Right? This just adds complexity. That's too much. You come back. If that's too much, you come back. Okay. So 20 seconds of each movement. We'll just try one round of each thing. We'll see how that feels. Okay.
All right.
And I'll give you that timer.
Okay.
Okay. We're going in 3, 1, and go. Superman's are first. Well, your toes touching, Arisa. There you go. And if that hold is too intense, relax. And then come back up. And relax. And you come back up. So we're reaching to the opposite ends of the room, resting in 2, 1, rest. You're gonna roll onto your back. If it helps and doing this at home, you can absolutely do this in separate pieces, meaning you're doing the Superman's only, and the Hull holds only. Bring your knees to your chest, shoulders off the ground. We start now. And maybe let's go one leg at a time. Yeah, there you go. If that's too much, you bring those knees back in. We're not trying to move them around. Just hold. We're just holding. 2, 1, and rest. Let's go do one more set of each. So if you're rolling around too much, we can stick with one or the other. 2, 1, and go. We're reaching for length, less about height. Toes are touching. Good. Breathing. 2, 1, rest. Last rotation. And so shoulders off the ground, knees to your chest, starting in 2, 1, and go. Sorry, that's my stomach. I'm hungry. It's grumbly. If you hear that, apologies. Nice work. Final 10 seconds. Good. 2, 1, and rest. Believe it or not, that was half of your tabata. Now that we're just, well, you're disappointed that we don't have time left. By that I mean, it's okay. Right? Fairly simple principles. They're not complicated. But as you probably found out, they're harder than they look, and or they just kind of suck.
Yeah, I thought Tabatas were supposed to be like super intense, like jump roping for that
It could
many.
be anything.
I haven't done one before where you're just holding something, so it's like, oh,
Isometric, yeah.
it's an option.
Tabata is just the time frame. What you do in that Tabata is kind of dealer's choice or athlete's choice. In this case, coach's choice. So isometric holds are, you're like, it's just a hold. How bad could it be? Go ahead and hold a goblet squat or an air squat for a minute. Tell me how that, not really, I'm kidding, in theory, right? Versus doing a minute of squatting. An isometric hold can be very effective in terms of like just creating stability or experimenting with fatigue under certain shapes. Obviously, if it's causing pain or discomfort in a way that doesn't feel normal, please go ahead and stop. Common sense. But it's okay if you're like, whoo, we're just holding. And I have to hold this and breathe and do it well. And that in combination with a bit of volume can be really effective in terms of stability and muscular endurance and all sorts of things. So it has its benefits. So yes, Tabatas can be holds. They can also be, 20 seconds of work as in squatting, pushing, whatever. But yeah, often the time you see it as like jump ropes and push-ups and squats and things.
And I was like, oh no, it's gonna be like 10 seconds of burpees or 20 seconds of
No,
burpees.
no. And it can be. I'm not saying you don't, I'm not saying that's a
But it
no.
doesn't have to be, is what
Absolutely not.
I see. Okay.
Anything. As long as you're doing 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off, or any kind of variation, right? 30 on, 20 off, or 40 on, 20 off, like traditionally it's 20-10, right?
Okay.
That was kind of the original principle. But you can take that idea and expand it or contract it based on what you're doing, how you're doing it.
I feel a couple years ago, everybody was talking about it, and then it's kind of
Tabata was the thing.
It's like,
The thing. It's also very effective. Mentally, you're like, it's 20 seconds. Oh, I could do 20 seconds. Great. I will say with something like this, you did a great job of flipping over, right? Side. But if you find you're like, oh man, like rolling on my hip or rotating, it's a lot to do. Just do the Superman holds
Okay.
and then just do the hollow holds. Right? You don't have to flip over every single time. You can, I think it's okay, but if you don't want to, you don't have to. So you can just split up the movements and just do either a full tabata of Superman holds or half. So do 4 sets. So today it's 8 sets or 8 rotations,
Okay.
right? 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off, 30-second intervals. It ends up being 4 minutes, but 8 total sets or 8 whatever intervals.
Okay.
So you can do 4 intervals of Superman holds and 4 intervals of hollow holds. You don't want to do, right? It's not so much time as it is effort, depending on how hard that is. Or you can do a full 8 of the hot Superman holds and a full 8 intervals of the hollow holds, but having a rest in between those two things.
Okay.
So you can approach this differently. We kind of flip-flopped it, so because you could, but you don't have to.
Okay.
Okay, good work today. Learned
Okay.
a lot of brain activity.
Yes.
We'll
Yes.
can we'll reduce the brain stuff a smidge, but we'll still keep ourselves learning and growing next time.
Sounds great.
Great.
Okay.
All
All
right,
right.
Lisa.
Thank you.
Bye. Take care.
Thanks. You too.